Hello, everybody. I should have had this screen up here. What am I doing? How embarrassing. This is what it is. It's Facebook Live number 4 in a series of 9. Can you believe it? I'm doing this for 9 days in a row. And it's actually going quite well, except for the fact that, well, let me tell you, everything was set up. I was getting more efficient, no problems. And then literally my hand is still dripping with the other half of this coffee, which is now on the floor in the kitchen. As it came out of the microwave, it decided to not do what it was supposed to. Anyway, these are my problems, not yours. And I'm going to, oh, hello, I've already got 2 people watching. Hello, and a comment. This is marvelous. Who's watching? Carolyn. Hello, Carolyn. Nice to, it says 𝗲𝗵𝗍𝗔𝗧 or something. And 2 kisses. Right, so let me tell you how this goes. This is number 4 in 9. And the first 5 minutes are about the masterclass. The next bulk of this show is me analyzing 9 photographs. In fact, more than 9, maybe 10 or 11. And then the last 10 minutes of the show is me telling you about the masterclass again, which is starting in 6 days now, next Monday. So if you don't want to hear about the masterclass because you know or you've signed up already, stop watching and come back at minute number 6. Right, here we go. I'm going to share the screen. This is a group that you can join if you like. This is free, obviously, our creative smartphone photography group. You can see I'm live, more or less, and I'm going to tell you about this. So in 1 week, my creative smartphone photography masterclass is starting, and it's really the culmination of my life's photographic work up until now. If you go to this homepage, which is infinitecreativitynow.com, you will find this. And if you click on this button here, if all goes according to plan, it will open up the page which tells you all about the program. Let me get rid of the this branding thingy here. And this. This will be very quick. If you want to really know about the masterclass, tune in for the last 10 minutes and I go into more details. This is really just a quick introduction. So it's 9 weeks. There are 2 weeks break in between, 3 weeks, a week's break or a catch up, then another 3 weeks, another week's break or catch up, and then the final 3 weeks. It's very, very, I won't say it's relaxed because you have goals, you have objectives, but you have set them yourself. The idea is honestly, it's about photography. But because so many people have this wonderful camera in their pocket all the time, which is called a smartphone, why not use it to take amazing photographs? And the photographs that I present on this page were all taken with my smartphone. And it's for you to go through it. I'm not saying whether they're amazing or not, but you can judge if these are the sort of images you'd like to be taking on your smartphone. And of course, these are in my style. There are many different styles. There's as many different styles as there are people. So I'm just showing you what I do on my smartphone, everything on the smartphone, all of these images and the ones you'll see today as well. There is post-processing, so I play around with them afterwards. That's part of my style. You don't have to. And so the masterclass is in 5 modules. The first module is just 1 week, and it's the introduction to photography, the joy of photography. So we look at what photography is and why we love it, why we love looking at images so much. First thing we look at on a page is an image, not the words. And straight away from the word go, the very first lesson, which is video lessons, very short video lessons with a single topic and a single little assignment, and a quick win as well. From the very word go, you'll be having photography to do. And the second module it's an introduction module, and we cover your camera, getting familiar with your camera and with the basic applications that we can use throughout, either to correct problems with the photograph, like lighting and so on, or to get really creative. That's 2 weeks. The core module, the middle, is the longest. It's 3 weeks. That's after a week's break. And it covers composition, all that sort of thing. Really, it's the heart of the program. I'm not going to go into details now because I'm up to 5 minutes, The fourth module is developing your photographer's eye. That's really getting into, it's kind of advanced stuff, but you're ready for it. And it's really starting to feel images. It's coming from deep inside you. And then the last module is 1 week, and it's graduation, and you present your work and celebrate. So that's 5 minutes. I'm going to move over to the photo analysis now. And so, as I said, I promised the first 5 minutes of stuff about the masterclass, and then it's onto the guts of this program, which is analyzing 9 photographs. It will be 3 of mine, and I'm just sharing the thing here. It'll be 3 of mine and 6 of yours, although you've managed to sneak in 2 or 3 extra ones, I noticed. Someone else has said hello. 𝗕𝗘𝗟𝗧, hi 𝗕𝗘𝗟𝗧, nice to have you here again. You don't have to watch everything I do, you know. I know you put it on the background and do your cooking and stuff, but I will be I'll be discussing one of your photographs. So watch out for that. All right, so let's get right into this. 9 photographs. The first one is one of mine. And this is spontaneous. I haven't thought about what I'm going to say, but that's the way I work, actually, mainly spontaneous. So it's one of Paris's amazing metro signs. Paris it's a universe unto itself. It was one of the first cities that had metros, although quite a few years after London, I think. I don't know about New York or Moscow, places like that. Think about 1900, the first metro opened. And there are so many interesting metro signs. There are certain types which are very typical for Paris, but there are also dotted around some that are completely unique, like this one. This is an absolute marvel. And what I decided to do was, well, I've gone crazy on the colors. So it's not exactly that color. Obviously, where it's blue, where it's white, where it's red. But in real life, it's not quite like that. As if you look at the sky, you can see the sky isn't really like that either. So I've played around with it. But over and above that, I've zoomed in, or I've cropped, so that it's taking up the entire shot. There's only one subject, and it's this metro sign. And that's something that comes up quite often. I look at a photograph and I think, and what's the subject? In other words, what is the photograph about? For? Why? Why did you take it? And you'll find that you'll find that your strongest are photo. No, you'll find that your photos are stronger if it's really, really clear what the photograph is about. It might sound completely obvious, but you'll be surprised how often people see something vaguely nice in front of them, or they just want to take a photo because that's what you do when you go somewhere. They lift the camera, they click, and it's just nothing. It's just. So one of the ways of making a photograph is making it a photograph of something. And one of the best ways of making it of something is having nothing but that something in the shot. So with food, for example, you can have a nice picture of the table set and everything, but you could also just have the plate. And that's what 𝗕𝗘𝗟𝗧 has in a photo that's coming up, just the plate, as this is just the metro sign. Now I'll move on to someone who, new member of my group called Jen, and she submitted a few photographs. So it's going to be kind of Jen's day today. There's 4 photographs from Jen. But interestingly enough, the first 2 are kind of similar. And Jen says, well, let me show you. These are the 2 photographs. No, I'll tell you what she says. She says, here's one of my favorites, but would love to know what your take is on it, Sam. That's kind of vague, isn't it? What my take is on it. Although the second one, she says, I love this one, but it needs something, not sure what. And these are the photographs she's talking about. This one and this one. And the reason I put them together is because they're obviously quite similar. They're a similar theme. They're actually similar photographs in a way. You've got their landscapes. In this one, you've got the bottom third is the green with some lovely sunflowers. Can I make it bigger without? Okay, yeah, that doesn't lose too much of the top and bottom. It's pretty much that in the photograph. And a stunning sky up above. Probably 2/3 of the shot is sky. So straight away, it's nice proportions. Pretty classic proportions. Either have the line a third of the way up from the bottom or a third of the way down from the top. As long as what's in the photograph merits it, it's going to be quite a nice composition. And this one is almost similar, although the horizon line is a little bit further up towards the middle, but that's okay. In fact, you could even make this, the horizon line, 1/3 down from the top. We can try that in a second. Well, let's see what happens. So on the first one, she says, it's one of my favorites, but would like to know what your take on it is. So that's kind of vague. So I'll just sort of ramble. What about if we did what I said and made the horizon line where those trees are and the water and the sky about 1/3 of the way down, and turned it into this. Actually, I don't need all of this. I wonder if I can get rid of that and then make this bigger. No, I kind of lose it. There must be a way of making it fit the screen exactly, but I haven't found it or can't be bothered. And this is really a beautiful photograph. And she says she wants to know what my take on it is. I don't have much of a take on it. There's not much to say. The original was square, remember, and I would have something to say about that, and that's basically why. Why is it square? So if we look back at the original, which was this, is there a reason for it being square? Is it your thing, Jen? Because here's another, and I'd say it's pretty much square as well. So either it's your thing, like me, my thing is square, and therefore everything fits into the square frame. But if it isn't your thing, then you don't have to make every photo square. Or you can ask yourself, what is the best composition? So this one being square, I would say, doesn't probably merit it because there's a lot of blue sky up top that doesn't do much. In fact, the clouds are stunning. And yet so is the landscape. So is the lake and the rock and the trees and the reflection. So I don't think this huge bit of blue sky merits taking up more than half the photograph, along with the rest of the sky. Unless, as I said, squares are your thing. But if squares are your thing, I would crop it differently. If squares are your thing, then why not crop it probably a bit more like this? And then that gives you a more balanced photograph with less of that huge chunk of blue sky. And what is it that's interesting in this shot? Well, one of the most beautiful things is the reflection, apart from the beautiful, it's beautiful. But one thing that moves it from the ordinary to the extraordinary is something like not only a stunning cloudscape, but it's reflected. Focus on that. What else could I say? I could say that, well, here the way I've cropped it, the midline of the water hitting the trees, and the trees is pretty much halfway through in the photograph. And often having the horizon line right in the middle, and I'll say it again and again, you've heard this before, but that's not a bad thing. It's not necessarily the best composition. Having said that, we're okay because you've got this rock here, which is breaking up the bottom half. And it's almost cutting the photograph into almost thirds, you see. The rock is almost 1/3. Up from the rock to the horizon is almost 1/3. And then the sky, once you've got the trees in as well, the sky is almost 1/3. You've got these 2/3. So that's my take on it. If you want to keep it square, I'd go something like this. There's also another thing I wanted to say. If I go back to the original. Yeah, there's the original. And on the other photograph, she says there's something lacking or it needs something. And I was wondering about this as well. Does it need something? And if so, what? Well, something I talked about yesterday, and that's foreground interest. In other words, what is there in the foreground to throw the background into I don't know what, into context or into something. I've got the French word, but not the English word. So this rock is trying to do that. This rock is trying to be the foreground interest, which makes the background seem a long way away because you've got something very close to you and big. The only thing is, for me, it's just not interesting enough. Sorry, rock, but I'm thinking of, like a huge, old, twisted, lightning smashed tree trunk or, tree like this in the foreground, or lying, an old branch lying with loads of character. it's just a rock. Okay, it's a rock, it's a nice texture, and it's not the same texture as the rest. It's not the same color as the rest. It's also nice that it's off to the side. It's off to the side and comes down with a line like that. That is really nice. It kind of, the corner kind of points into the photograph. You've got the water coming along the side from the bottom. So it's actually very, very nice. I don't have anything particular to say about this. The trees, I like the trees, lovely reflection coming in to about a third of the way in on that side and much less on the other. But where there's less trees coming in on the other side on the left, you've got the rock coming in, that balances it. The trees, the big triangular bit of trees with the reflection and the rock balance each other. You've got the echo of the clouds. Yeah, it's a very, very nice shot. The only thing, you know, I mean, what about a boat? A boat with a big red sail here. Is that maybe what it might be lacking? Some sort of humanity, or some sort of subject. It comes back to the subject. What's the subject of this shot? Is it the landscape? Is it just that? That's the shot, that's the subject? Well, okay, pretty picture. To move it from pretty picture, even postcard picture, which it is, to something extraordinary, maybe it needs something else. And you can't always manufacture something else. You sometimes just got to go with it. But you could move back and forth, in and out, maybe squat down so that the rock is really close to you like this. I don't know. So yeah, maybe it's beautiful, but it's almost a tiny bit sterile. So maybe not. It's completely personal what I'm saying. And then if we apply the same sort of ideas to this one, and here she literally says, love it, but it needs something, not sure what. Well, what do you think it needs? Any ideas? By the way, if you're watching this and you're finding you can't comment, that's because you need to go here to comment, right? If you go and watch this video live on facebook.com/𝗓𝗪𝗺, and then you can comment and I can see your comments. All right, so Facebook/𝗓𝗪𝗺, my personal profile, is where you can comment and I see them. If you want me to know who you are, you need to go to streamyard.com/Facebook and say, yes, he can see who I am. Then I see your name when I put your comment, just like 𝗕𝗘𝗖𝗟 here. And also, Carolyn said replayers, whatever that means. Probably means she's going to watch it on the replay. She was just saying hello. All right, so to do that, I need to see your name. You need to allow my program. All right. I'm just trying to get rid of these again. I'll get there. One day I'll master this thing. Now this one, it needs something, not sure what. Well, okay, if you think it needs something, we can look for something. I'm not saying it does. You're saying it does. Stunning sky. I think you're right to have done 2/3 the sky, 1/3 the sunflowers. The sunflowers are kind of more intense, but the sky is more stunning. So it's a nice balance. Because the clouds are so amazing, you've got this quite wide angle lens, which has given you a huge sky. And the clouds almost look like they're thundering away towards the horizon in some way. So I wouldn't necessarily, because you could crop it like this. You could say, okay, let's do something like this. Make the sunflowers the object. And this is going to be your shot. But I wouldn't necessarily say the sunflowers were strong enough to get rid of that lovely sky. And also, you've got the bottom bit here isn't actually very interesting. Hang on, if I do it this way. You know, I mean, if you did it with the horizon halfway down, that's actually quite nice, isn't it? You've decided, because you've got a really panoramic view, you've decided, let's put the horizon line slap bang in the middle, and it's a fun photograph. I like it like that. That's actually really, really cool. So that's one option. And so I'll get rid of that. I'm getting back to the original. Trying to anyway. What was the original? There we are. But let's say you want to keep this stunning sky. What else can we do? You don't have to keep it all. So what about if we crop the other way? Something like this. So you could do something like that. This green, all of this green down here, it's not that exciting. You need a bit of green because you wouldn't just have the flowers sitting on the bottom of the photograph, but you don't need all of that green, I would say. So what about if we go for a traditional crop? That's pretty good. Well, that's nice. You've still got this stunning sky. It's still about a third of the way down, up from the bottom. And what you do is when you crop, if you've got enough pixels to crop, you make the things which are the points of interest. We've got several points of interest. Like it's really the sunflowers. You make them bigger in relation to everything else. So that's stronger as well. That's already stronger. And you could, if you like the square format, you can always do something like this as well. All right, let me just go back with one more. I had one more comment, if I can remember what it was. Yeah, my other comment was on on composition. What about if you had those sunflowers sticking up, the biggest ones sticking up over the horizon into the blue? Now, I can't do that obviously here, but what you could do is you take your camera and you walk forward towards those sunflowers. Maybe you move to the left slightly so the sunflowers actually get more centered. You squat down like this and you shoot from a little bit lower so that you've actually got the sunflowers sticking up over the horizon. So, like I said, I can't show you, but just imagine if you had this shot and we did it something like this. Let's say we did it something like this, yeah. Image crop. But imagine instead of the sunflowers just brushing the horizon and not really breaking the horizon, what about if these flowers here, 1, 2, 3, maybe possibly 4, were actually here? 1, 2, let me make it bigger. Imagine if that sunflower there was actually here, even bigger because you've gone closer and you've squatted down, even bigger, completely covering the sky here, not completely covering, this one here and this one here. That'd be amazing. So that's using your leg zoom. I told you about this yesterday or the day before. Your leg zoom is actually when you walk. You walk towards... got some kids coming into the courtyard here. I wonder what they're up to. Yeah, so that's my other suggestion for that. Okay, let's move on to my next one. Here it is. And we're changing territory. We're going from the countryside to town, Paris, obviously. And this is an example of using the environment, getting the environment to interact with humanity. So here's somebody going past, and the thing is to invent situations which don't actually exist. So I'm imagining that this guy is on the wall, is playing with this lady who is oblivious to what he's doing. It's all imagination, you see. He's not a real man. He's just painted on the wall. And yet, isn't it funny? It's like she is so oblivious, and her dogs, that this guy is actually leapt up into the sky, legs wide open, playing a flute, and he's about to whistle in her ear. So it's, and then this kid here, well, we don't know what this kid is doing, but it adds interest to the left of the shot with the typical Parisian street sign, which adds a sense of place. People who know that this is Paris. And even if you don't know, it still gives it a sense of place. And it's in French, so you know that it's in France, Passage du Moulin des Prés. It's got the arrondissement, the region up there. And then I've played with the colors, and I've also tilted the shot. In tilting the shot, this zigzag line has actually become almost parallel with the top. Whereas the line going down, I maybe did that to fit everything in and to give it a bit of character, but also it gives a kind of downhill feeling, which doesn't exist. It is flat. A downhill feeling, which goes with the feeling that the guy, it accentuates the guy's downward leap, like he's going to really land on top of her back or something. And you've got a shadow of the lady as well, which adds yet another bit of interest. And you've got two dogs there. You've got one dog there and one dog between her legs. Lots of interesting things to look at, but it's still quite pure. You've got a bit of Paris street behind. I couldn't really get rid of that. I didn't want to, but it gives it a bit of atmosphere. But the real action is happening here. She's down in the bottom right, and he's coming in from the top middle. And her shadow hasn't been cut off here. I'm very careful when I crop to make sure that as much as possible, things aren't chopped, which would be a shame to chop them. So this guy is just, his back has got a bit of space, the little guy before the edge there. The top of the photo doesn't chop off the yellow points there. This woman's shadow isn't chopped on the right, and her foot has some space underneath it before you reach the end of the bottom of the shot there. So that's one of the things that I do when I crop. I'm very careful to do that. 𝗕𝗢𝗂𝗧 says, is this the guy you said people painted around? Yeah, that's right. And I've got my Facebook profile at the moment is actually this guy leaping with my head underneath looking up. That's the guy who, first of all, it was graffiti on somebody's wall, which normally gets painted over, the graffiti. But when they painted over, it had been there so long and become so much part of the environment, they actually painted around the graffiti. The graffiti has become more important than their beautiful wall, which is quite funny. You have to be, a pretty well-established graffiti artist with a well-known style, and maybe possibly exhibiting around the world or in galleries before you have the honor of not having your work painted over by the people who own the wall. Oh my goodness, what's this? Well, if it's about food, it's probably 𝗕𝗢𝗂𝗧 isn't very far. So 𝗕𝗢𝗂𝗧 says, I take lots of food photos for my recipe stack. So 𝗕𝗢𝗂𝗧 does recipes, healthy recipes. That looks absolutely yummy, doesn't it? And she says, any tips on that? Plate, bowl in the shot, zoom in on the food, props. Remember my sign? It's kind of similar to that, isn't it? She's actually also chopped the edge of the bowl. It's not within the shot. These are decisions. What is the subject? The subject is the food. What was she trying to show here? I guess she's trying to make it appetizing. She's trying to make it look healthy. And to do that, it needs to look very fresh. It needs to be nicely arranged in the plate. You need to have beautiful lighting. So possibly things are glistening. If things are supposed to be glistening, they should be glistening. In other words, have little highlights. So not muggy, mushy lighting. It looks like you've got lighting from the side. It's probably natural coming in from a window by the looks of it, because you can see the shadow of the bowl underneath. It looks kind of like a plastic bowl. I'm just going to say what comes to my mind. Plastic bowl makes me think either it's to take with you to eat out, not restaurant, not chic. And it looks like the sort of plastic bowl you put a lid on. So this is making me think it could be a meal that you go out with. I'm not sure if it would be arranged like that so beautifully if it were. I don't know, because it does look like it's been arranged not to be carried, in a bag, dumped in a bag. And the light coming from the side gives it a lot of texture, and also it makes the things that are round look round. In other words, you have a ball, like a chickpea is a ball, and you have light coming from one side. It's high lit on one side and darker on the other. So it gives you the feeling, and even for the little things, it's beautifully lit, really nice, really, if it's on your smartphone, well done. It's slightly off to the right. Why is it chopped? Why is it so close in? It's a question. I'm not saying it shouldn't be. I'm just wondering why. What were your decisions when taking this? Was it that you wanted it this shape to fit on a certain place in a web page, for example? So it had to be this shape, and yet the bowl is round. So you're going to have a bit of space somewhere. You're right, I think. This space here on the left, it's neutral, so it doesn't distract from the photograph. But having said that, if you wanted to fill in that space, you could put, you know, a fork or something, a knife and fork looking kind of appetizing, but not much, or a pot of pepper or something. Probably also it's touching slightly on the right there. Hang on, I did something didn't mean to do that. I meant to do this. Yeah, so I've got more questions than I've got answers, you see, but the questions might make you think. Is that some sort of mug I can see up there or something, or a glass behind it? Yeah, to be honest, I don't have much to say about this. It's very beautiful. If you go above it and look down, it gets rounder and it'll be more of a round shape. The lower you go, looking across it, the longer it'll go. So if you wanted to make this fit more fully, this long rectangle you have, you could actually go down, shoot across the top of it, and it would actually turn into you could fill the entire frame with it like that. But having said that, you'd start to get whatever's behind it in the shot, and that might not be as beautiful as you want. Yeah, so really nice. It looks so fresh, very beautifully prepared. I don't know how you've managed, but the lighting is almost warm, but it's not too warm. When I say warm, I mean orange, because if everything goes too orange, like you want the pure white of the lemon here to bring out the lovely yellow of it. It looks very, very natural. It's marvelous, wonderful, really nice. Keep going like that. Keep practicing doing shots of food like that, and it's wonderful. Yeah, no worries at all. I want to eat it. And here's one from a new member of the Creative Smartphone Photography group. And if you want to join us, you can go here. It's a Facebook group. You look for Creative Smartphone Photography and you find our group. I've got another comment, probably Tinkutsa, talking about her wonderful tips. Yeah, I'm not sure. Well, thank you. I'm not convinced I gave you anything that useful. But, you know, take what you can. Ask the same questions I was asking. Right, so this is from Tila. Tila, I think she's from Hungary, living in Spain. And she said, I kind of asked her what she was thinking about with this photograph, because I don't know what she was trying to do or get from it. And she said she wanted to make the King's Cross St. Pancras name more prominent, which is the important thing for her in this photograph. Because it could have been the text, couldn't it? There could have been some sort of joke between the text and the name of the station. I don't know. She says no. So in that case, now one thing, the immediate thing that I would say is it's rather dull. I mean, I'm guessing that this is pure white here. All of the thing that is this color, I'm guessing it's pure white. So what's happened? Well, it's not pure white, is it? It's some sort of mushy something or other. It's not gray, but it's kind of mushy, orangey, I don't know what. And about the only thing I do on this program, and I don't, my shots are, I'm a purist in that I only use the smartphone to process my shots. But just to indicate what you can do here, that's made it even darker, but I'll show you why, is to bring this up. Even to that, if you go further, the other things start to blow out. I mean, that's more or less white, but you have kind of lost a bit of atmosphere. It depends what you want, but this is really mushy. So that definitely asks for some post-processing. But what you might want is for the atmosphere of the station to come through. It's like a cafe. You think of cafes and they're, you know, warm atmosphere, orange lights, gives, you know, people enjoying themselves. You can imagine the music, the smells. If you turned an evening cafe with lovely orange lights, pure white, there wouldn't be any atmosphere left. So depending on what the case is, you do what is appropriate. So let's imagine that that's one thing you could do very, very quickly on your smartphone. You literally bring the whites up. You could also change the color balance a little bit to make it less orange. But like I said, I wouldn't, because metro stations, unless they're really, really harshly lit, they tend to be a little bit moody, and some are really moody. Now you're saying that King's Cross is the main thing. I'm not quite sure why. If it's a shot to remember that you were in London, then okay, great. I would possibly have chosen another example of King's Cross and Pancras, which didn't have this huge advertising poster here, because that kind of gets in the way. If your intention is to remember your trip to London and the typical London Underground stations, then this poster doesn't really do anything. If you're doing, the poster doesn't add to that, kind of gets in the way. What about if you move to the side? Move to the side, so you're shooting along the King's Cross and Pancras sign, and move to the side enough so you can see the end of the tunnel. And when the train comes in out of the tunnel, you've got the King's Cross sign going into the distance towards the tunnel, and you've got the train coming out. So that'd be a really fun shot. You'd have some people standing on the platform as well, and that'd be a nice way to remember your trip to London or your adventures in the London Underground. And that's definitely something that I do myself in Paris. I could show you shots, but it would take too long. I'm trying to keep this purely on the 9 shots I'm looking at, but I've definitely got shots like that. Maybe I'll look at one tomorrow or later, where it's exactly that. It's looking along the platform. You've got the sign, so you know where you are, but then you've got the tunnel as well. And well, wait for the train to come out of the tunnel. Why not? It would almost be silly not to. So thanks for sending that in, Tila. Really appreciate it. The London Underground, home sweet home. No, I get nervous in the London Underground because I find that the platforms are really narrow, and I feel nervous that I'm going to fall onto the platform, especially when there's a lot of people. The Paris platforms are much wider, and also they're less claustrophobic, because in London they tend to be one rounded little thing like this. The tunnel is even smaller like that, and there's just one platform. Whereas in Paris, you've got both lines are in the middle, and then other people standing on the other side normally. So it's a bit less claustrophobic. And now I'm going to move on to my last shot. But again, I'm cheating a little bit. Get rid of that. Yeah, see, it was like that, very dark. And I was going to do something a bit different. And then I realized I had 3 shots which illustrated this quite nicely. The first one is this. Tell me what you think is the similarity between these 3 shots. There's the first one. There's the second one. And there's the third one. Here they are again. What is the similarity that I have spotted between these 3 shots? First one, the second one, and the third one. Well, it's that there's a kind of uniform color of nothingness, and there's one little highlighted thing. And this goes into what I was saying about the subject. What's the subject? Very often people make the, let's call it a mistake, if they want their photographs to be striking, of not having a subject. You just don't know what you're looking at, or it's just a sort of whatever was in front of you. Well, a photograph is much stronger, even if it's of a wall. You know, you might say, a wall, hello, you know, why is that interesting? Well, if you've got a wall with one tiny little, very, very significant thing, which really stands out, then it is an interesting photograph. Much more interesting than, you know, the Eiffel Tower with the trash cans and people, tourists taking other photographs and benches and trees. No. Because look at this. The subject becomes what? The texture, the lines, the color, and the little lock, the little love lock, which is in pink, which contrasts beautifully with gray. That's my opinion. Then there's the placement of the lock. The classic sort of beginner's composition is put the subject, like the lock, for example, 1/3 down and 1/3 in, or the same on the other side, or 1/3 up and 1/3 in, or 1/3 up and 1/3 in on the other side. That's great. Why not? But you can, you know, rules which don't really exist. They're just things people say could be worth trying, are meant to be twisted and, you know, used as inspiration. So what about if you shove it more into the corner? I put this really in the corner, not completely in the corner, because that would be too much, but more, I wanted to show how big the wall was and how small this little lock was. I could have zoomed in on the lock. I could have done, the photograph could have been this, for example. If I keep my square theme, which is my thing, all right, let's say it could have been this. All right, there you go. You got the lock 1/3 in, 1/3 down. You got a bit of wall. It's kind of interesting, but that's not what I did. Because I wanted to emphasize the smallness of the lock, and yet the lock represents love. It represents everything. It represents a couple that came to Paris, that maybe it's a pretty modest little lock. Maybe they didn't have much money, maybe, and yet there's their little lock in the middle of a huge boring wall. And well, it's not boring, it's got a beautiful texture. And there it is, it's still there. They've come, they've gone. Maybe their love has come and gone, I don't know. But there's their little lock, and I'm looking at it. I'm feeling warm because there it is. It's sweet, it's modest, and yet maybe it represents their. I'm getting all emotional. Maybe it represents their entire life. Maybe it was their dream trip to come to Paris one day and put their little lock somewhere in Paris, and there it is. And now I'm talking about it, and now you're listening to me talking about it, and all because their love made them do that. Maybe that's crap. Maybe it's got nothing to do with that, but who knows? I don't know. But there it is. They did something. J and M with a little heart did that, and now my life has changed because of it. That's how you can influence people, through creating things, through doing things, through sharing things. And then the lines, I played with the lines. You see this line goes down, it crosses the lock, so there is a link there, and it goes down to not quite the bottom, because you've got this other line, vroom, zooming across. And I really like it. I can't tell you why I like it. You can't say why you like something. And you're not wrong if you like something because someone else says it's not good and you say it is. It doesn't work like that. I like it. There's something about those lines, the diagonals, the way they crisscross, the place they touch the edges of the frame with the placing of the lock. There's something I find absolutely beautiful about it. And I'm right. And if you think it's crap, you're right. It's not crap and it's not crap. It pleases me. And that's what art is about, doing things that please you. And if you love it, it's wonderful. And that's it. That is the definition of what is a great piece of art, that you like it. And if you create something and you like what you've created, it's wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful for you. And that's all that matters. And if it gives other people pleasure, it might give them pleasure because they find it beautiful as well in itself, for itself, or they might find it beautiful because it came from you and they love you. Therefore, they love the fact that you've created that, and it's all mixed up emotionally, you see. So again, the thing is to create stuff, and you will touch other people in one way or another, as opposed to not creating stuff and then you're not touching people in the way you could. So, 𝗕𝗀𝗄𝗧, you created your beautiful photograph. I've appreciated it. I talked about it, and you've got ideas from it, but I like it because it's you as well. And you'll be able to put it on your site. People appreciate it because you did it. They know that you made the food and that you took the photograph. That changes things. People appreciate that more than if it was just, taken in a shop or, somebody else's picture that you got from the internet. That's why the selfies thing is good as well. When they see it's a picture of you, if your hand was there, your hand with a fork placing the fork into the food, and people knew it was your hand and your fork, it's personal. We want personal connection. So there you go. And yeah, so how am I doing for time? 44. I generally aim to stop on the hour, so I've got to hurry up actually. Wow, I don't have enough time. This is similar. It's the bird up in the top left. I don't have time to talk about these, but you see what I was doing. One big texture with interesting elements like the rectangle and the bird up in the top left. On a line, the bird's on a line, playing with lines. You see this little diagonal line up here in the top, filling in that space nicely, which echoes the other diagonal lines on the corners of this shape. And and this is similar. Lovely sort of uniform, but lots of texture on the wall. And I just found this cup sitting there, just sitting there, all on its own. Somebody had their coffee, they left it there. And oh my goodness, the lovely colors, the softness of those whites and the tinges of yellowy orange. And then this, boom, this bright cup, which is actually kind of in the same tones, the warm tones of the wall, the way I've played around with it as well. So, and lots of lines. But the thing is for the subject to be really clear, more colorful, sharper. It's round, whereas all the other lines are lines. Okay, so there's a contrast of shape, roundness with harshness, the soft texture of the paper cup with the harsh texture of the wall. All of this goes to making an interesting photograph. The lines even leading, some of the lines leading to the cup. Right, I'm into the last section here, and it's a double for Jen now. So there's two from Jen who did the landscapes earlier, and these are so different you wouldn't believe it. So here's one, and she says, I'll try and get that in the middle, and she says, I absolutely love the stars and moon, but have no idea how to capture what I am seeing on camera. Any tips for capturing those beautiful full moons or a sky full of stars? It's damn difficult. Just wondering if I can show you something here. I tried to capture the moon the other night. It was absolutely gorgeous. And I got a picture which was absolutely crap. I'm doing this. You see, I'm scrolling through, looking for this crap picture of the moon. Ah, here we go. Okay, I've got it. Right, is there anything I can possibly show you here which is worth looking at? I don't know if you can see this. There you go. Okay, so you got a bit of cloud, you got a bit of brightness with there is a round sort of, you see that round thing there? It's supposed to be the moon. Is it? It's there. There it is. I found it. There's the moon there, you see. And that little green speck is a lens anomaly. So the little green flare is actually more interesting than the moon, because the moon is just, what you've got is you've got extreme contrast. You've got a camera which is not made for taking pictures of the moon. You've got the black of the sky and the brightness of the moon, which is way outside the range which almost any camera can deal with, never mind a smartphone. Because, you know, you've got to admit, smartphones are limited. You've got a big fancy camera, the lens is like this, right? And you compare that to a tiny, tiny little dot, which is your smartphone camera. Fantastic as it is, it ain't gonna manage to take a beautiful picture of the moon. And the moon is a long way away, you know, it really is. And even if you zoom, I think this was taken on my zoom. I've got a zoom on here, not making throwing pixels off the edge, not that sort of enlarging zoom. No, that's crap. I've got two lenses there. You see, there's two lenses. One of them's a zoom, an optical zoom. Even with that, you're still going to get a kind of fuzzy flare of light, just like Jen has here. All right, so there's not much getting away from it. So what can you do? Well, and as for stars, you want to capture stars as well? There are stars. I mean, you have, look, that's a star. I think that's a star. This must be stars. You've done it. You've got a kind of soft halo around the moon, which is nice. You've got this thingy here, this sort of flare thing going up and down, which isn't horrible. You know, it's quite fun. The thing that I had, sometimes you get that little strange colored green light that I showed you there. You see the green bit there? You can sometimes, it's an unfortunate effect of having a very single bright source of light that you're trying to take. You'll get these kind of odd bits of colored dots and things. Sometimes if you tilt the phone, you can make that green light not where you actually want the photograph, the real bit of the photograph. You can sort of tilt it and it goes up to the top and you can crop it out. That's one thing you can do. So, I mean, for what it is, you know, this photograph, it's not as bad as you seem to suggest it is. you're not going to, you look up to the sky, the moon can seem amazingly big and stuff. In a photograph, it's never going to be as impressive as in real life. And if you happen to be able to zoom in on the moon, well, you know, what's so interesting about a picture of the moon anyway? It's more about, well, here, what I really liked was the moon shining through the clouds. And it was actually tinging the edges of the clouds rainbow colored. It's very difficult to see. But where the moon was tinging the edges of the clouds, they had a rainbow on the edge of the clouds. It's absolutely beautiful. And it just isn't going to come through. I would basically, you know, I'd stick to appreciating the moon in real life as opposed to trying to take a picture of it on your smartphone. That's what I decided. I just thought, forget this, and I went to the supermarket and got some ice cream. So that's maybe not that very, not very useful. Yeah, I mean, the moon, it always looks incredibly insignificant in photographs, unless you've zoomed in, and then, well, you've lost everything else. And the contrast is often way too high for it to be easy to take a photograph of. It looks good, especially on smartphones. So I don't have too many, you know, in the limited time I've got, I don't have much more to say about that. Oh my God, look at this. This is the last photograph. And it's a flower. And Jen's comment is, or her question, she says, this is another of my favorite things to photograph. My passion vine flowers. What would you recommend or do as far as editing, enhancing to make this really pop? Think about this for a second. She wants it to really pop. This is the half of the coffee that didn't end up on the floor just before, 1 minute before I started this recording, which I told you about at the beginning. Doesn't it pop? Is it not popping? What's your definition of popping? It's not a puppy, so it's not going to pop in that way, but it's, I mean, so pop, what do you mean by pop? You mean the colors aren't strong enough? It's not, it doesn't hit you in some way that you want it to hit you, like visually? It's not distinct enough from the background, maybe? For me, this is a stunning photograph of a stunning flower. Now, in terms of pop, I can only guess what you want. You want to play with nature's colors? This looks quite, I can never remember this word in English. In French, it's fidèle, faithful. The colors look quite faithful to nature, if you ask me. Do you want them to look brighter than in nature? You're trying to trick us? You're trying to make us think that the flower's even more stunning on your photograph than it is in real nature, You can do that if you want. I do. My photographs are exaggerated colors or exaggerated something. My artistic aim, I have a few sort of, you know, things like they're square. The other thing is I aim to create an image which is halfway between grim reality and a kind of dreamlike fantasy land. That's my thing. My colors aren't natural and they're not supposed to be. What's your aim? Is your aim to faithfully represent nature as you see it? And if the colors aren't quite exactly the same as they were in nature, like looking at the real flower, it's irritating. Is that it? Or do you want to exaggerate it? Do you want to make it more nature than nature? In which case, yeah, you can saturate the colors, can't you? You can saturate them. You can, I don't know. Let's say by pop, you mean you want it to stand out more, be more impressive. Well, yeah, let's look at a couple of things. For a start, one of the ways of making something, the subject, stand out is making the rest fuzzy. Those leaves next to it are really sharp. There's no getting away from it. They're almost as sharp as the flower itself, which doesn't focus the sharpness on the flower. Also, they're about the same color as the flower. I mean, the same intensity of color as the flower. One way of making a flower stand out from the background is to make the background dark. You can see there is darkness here. You see there is darkness in between. The further away you get, the darker it gets. But the thing is, there's tons of leaves all around it which aren't dark at all. So you haven't got much of an effect of darkness behind to make the flower stand out, or pop if you like. You haven't got much of a difference in sharpness to make the flower pop. The flower's pretty sharp, but so are the leaves with the veins, you know. So we're attracted to bright things, we're attracted to sharp things, and we're attracted to unusual things. The flower's unusual, it's sharp, and it's bright. But the leaves next to it are sharp and bright. So you can play around. You could actually trick us by somehow taking the flower, maybe pulling it with your hand and bringing it closer to us, and then taking the shot so that when you get really close up to it, you can start to throw the background out of focus. It's quite difficult on smartphones to have a really nice depth of field. In other words, the background fuzzy. Why? Because normally the lens on the smartphone is quite wide angle. In other words, it gets a load of stuff in. You know, it gets everything. You look at a building on your smartphone, you'll see the building. You won't see one window. You'll see the whole building. So one of the effects of a wide angle lens is that everything is in focus. That's one of the aims, you know, everything is in focus. Wonderful, wonderful. Except throwing the background out of focus, making the background fuzzy, is one way of making an interesting subject pop. So there's a few things to think about there, you see. Another thing is composition. Where is the photograph in the shot? I mean, sorry, where's the flower in the shot? This is the last picture, by the way, so we'll be finishing in a second. This is photograph number 9, more or less. So I slipped a couple in as a bonus. So another thing is composition. You know, I mean, how pleasing is it composition-wise to look at this photograph? Well, you tell me. What do you think? Is it a nice composition? Does it please you? Does it seem to have been carefully planned, put together? Is the flower in a particular place in the shot in relation to other things, including the edges? As I said in the discussion on these shots, often one of the things to do when you've only got one subject and the sort of average background is to put the subject in a corner, like this, like this, like this. This flower isn't in a corner. It's not exactly in the middle. It's not exactly in one of the 4 corners. It's not exactly anything at all. It's slightly higher than the middle. It seems to be slightly off to the right, but that's only because this petal here is a little bit closer to the edge than the others. Apart from that, it's pretty much slap bang in the middle, slightly up. Why? I don't know. Flowers, they're a bit like people's faces. If someone is looking slightly to one side, give them a bit more space to look into. Is this flower looking slightly to the side? Maybe it is. As I look at this, it seems to be slightly turned, looking, as I'm looking at, looking to the left. And it seems to have a little bit more space to look into than not. But you know, I'm kind of pulling at straws here. There's a huge contrast in color between the brightness of the white petals and the purple and the green. Purple and green is a gorgeous contrast. But yeah, I think you need some more elements to make it stand out a little bit more. Otherwise, it's just a picture of a beautiful flower. But there are photographic techniques you could use to make it stand out more, pop more, as I've hinted at. And I'll leave it at that. So there we are. That's it for the photo analysis. Now I'm going to spend 10 minutes, as usual, talking about my masterclass. And you can go now if you know all about it, if you've already signed up. If not, why not? Is there a problem somewhere? And so I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to tell you all about my masterclass for 10 minutes. And I'm going to time it. So that's what I do. That's my thing. I'm going to time it. And the last 10 minutes I say to people will be about the masterclass, so you can leave if you like. And if you know it already, thank you for watching. And I will now tell you, if you're watching for the first time, all about my wonderful masterclass, if I can find it. Right, here it is. So I'm running a masterclass. It's starting next Monday, and I really recommend you join. It's my entire life's work. And that's talking like 30 years of taking photographs. And I'm putting it all into this masterclass. It's intended to be the only photographic training you will ever need, ever. Unless you want to do something really specialized. Okay, you're just a general, you love taking photographs of lots of different types of things. You want to have a general ability to capture beautifully practically anything at all, including people, including architecture, including nature. And above all, developing your photographer's eye. Well, no, actually, there's a lot about composition. There's a lot about understanding the controls, even techniques like how to hold it steady, and applications, because apps today, I'm not a purist. Applications are amazing and I use them. So right the way from the basics up to developing the photographer's eye. And this is where it's going deep, deep, deep inside you. And a photograph that you take is representing your entire life, actually, is in that photograph. So we go right the way through. And I'll show you how we go through. There's 5 modules. I didn't actually set my phone for 10 minutes. Oops. Let me just do that now because I don't want to take more than 10 minutes. So I'm going to talk for about another 8 minutes. I'm going to go down to the modules. All of the photographs you see on this page, which if you go to, I'll just show you the page. If you go to infinitecreativitynow.com and you click the early bird button, because there's early bird pricing, you go to this page and it tells you all about the masterclass. I'm going to go right down to the modules, first of all. The first module, it's 1 week. So there's 5 modules. 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week. And incorporated into the entire program is every possible way of making it fun, motivating, exciting, and rewarding. It's interactive. You've got small things to do each time. They're easy to do. You get an instant win each time you do them. There's a system built into the platform which gives you wins. Literally, you press buttons and you get celebrations and you watch your points go up. The goals system is great because goals motivate, but it's not nice if you don't meet the goals. So the goals are set by you, not by me. I help you. I tell you what good goals would be, but you can choose from a range of 3 goals. So 1, everyone will manage to achieve the first goal and be very happy with it. The second one is for people who want to go through the course normally. They have enough time. They want to really go for it on this session. But it's very, very doable. And the third level of goal that you can set is a stretch goal. You really want to go maximum full in and produce something absolutely stunning. Even the first level goal, you will have a superb collection of photographs at the end of the sessions. So that's entirely up to you, and I support you all the way, and you do reach the goal, which is what you're doing the program for. You're not doing it to not get a set of beautiful photographs, better than you've ever had before. You're doing it to get those. So that's what the program is pushing towards. And the final module is actually displaying your photographs and talking about them in either a very modest way or an international exhibition if you want, or just in your living room, or just in the safety of our group, whatever you like. So there's the first one. It's 1 week and it's discovering the joys of photography. What is photography? Why do we love photography so much? But we don't exploit it as much as we could. We could get so much more enjoyment out of photography if we knew more about what we were doing, how to express ourselves creatively. We all love expressing ourselves creatively, but we sometimes lack a way of doing that. And your smartphone is the way to do it. You've got it with you all the time. And if you learn some basic techniques, you learn some great compositional elements, and you learn to let your heart and your mind and your life experience and your photographer's eye guide you, you will be creating the most beautiful images that you could never imagine. So you want to be creative, start with this. It's there for you. And so am I. The second module is 2 weeks. And also built into the program is a system, or possibly 2 systems, which allow you to see your progress very clearly. At any given point, you are tested, pushed just the right amount. So the second module is 2 weeks, and you look at the smartphone, the way it works, the possibilities, some secret ways of manipulating it that you probably don't know exist. And also apps, the applications, 2 types of applications. I divide them into 2 types. The basic ones, which allow you to correct an image. For example, we saw that photograph earlier where in the metro, in the London Underground, it was very dull. So, you know, it was too dull. It's not right. Nothing artistic about this. It was just not right. So you can change the brightness or the colors or the sharpness, you know, things like this. And the second type of app is getting artistic, doing wild, crazy stuff. You decide to what extent you want to use those apps. There's no judgment whatsoever. We look at what's available. We help you discover your own style, your photographic style, the way you like expressing yourself. And we look at apps that will help you do that. The third module is the heart of the program. It's 3 weeks. It's the longest module. 3 weeks, we look at composition, all sorts of ways of making your photographs visually stunning and pleasing to everybody. People who look at them, yourself, satisfying. You fill your toolbox full of a great range of ways of making your photographs look great. So whatever situation you're in, you will instinctively start to use the tools or the approaches which are right for that situation. Plus, of course, you know, you're making creative choices. The fourth module is developing your photographer's eye. You can call this an advanced module if you like. And it's where you let your instinct, your intuition, based on everything that's gone before in your entire life, and those techniques which are becoming second nature now, to go with an idea and see what happens. This is a wonderful module because it's where the theory goes out of the window and it's pure practice, it's pure experience. And then the final module is 1 week. And it's a wrapping up module, but it's also a very exciting module because it's the culmination. You graduate, you show your photographs, and you have an exhibition. It's either an online exhibition just for the people in the program, or it could be you physically print your photographs, you put them on the wall of a gallery in your town, and you have an exhibition with people coming to visit. Or it could be somewhere in between. You just put them in your living room, or you even have your computer, you know, like a slideshow on your computer for your family, and you talk about them. So it's an event, it's a real event, but it can be as modest or as exciting and blown up as you like. And that is the goal. That is the culmination of this course, which we are committed to helping you achieve. That's part of the course. You will achieve this. It's, you know, it's kind of in the contract, as it were. This is what we work towards. And if you have any difficulties or, you know, time challenges, it's not a problem because I work with you until you achieve this goal. And there are bonuses, which I'll let you read about yourself because there's no more time. I'm going to stop this now. Your personal success guarantee. There are some testimonials of people who have worked with me on photographic projects and they liked them. And that's a bit about me. And there's the questions and answers. If you want to know about prices or goals or assignments or guarantees or bonuses, etc., then you can look at that section. Right, so that's it. There's an early bird price and you get $100 off. So the standard price for this time, which is actually lower than it will be next year, $200 lower. It's $297 for this full, you know, intensive. When I say intensive, you know, the videos are actually very short. You've got a very simple thing to do, but I would say comprehensive rather than intensive. And the early bird offer is for a few more days, but it'll stop before the program starts, and it's $197. You click on this button, any button, click to join, and you get to this form. And if you type in, I can do it for you if you like, if you want to give me your credit card number in capitals, early bird, and you press return, and it chops it down to 197, plus the bonuses and all that sort of thing. Right, so there it is. I really hope you will join me. It's going to be such fun. I'm so excited about this. And if you have any questions, then get in touch. There's no problem. And I'll leave it at that for now. This was number 4 in 9 special shows I'm doing, photo analysis shows. So there's going to be 9. What's that doing there? And that's one of the bonuses as well. I'm going to wrap up all of these photo analyses So it's 9 shows, 9 photographs analyzed in each. Put them all together in a pack. That's 81 photo analyses, and get rid of all the stuff about the masterclass. And that's going to be a 4th bonus. So I hope you enjoyed it. And thanks for watching. For those of you watching still, I really appreciate it. There's going to be another one tomorrow. There's going to be another one for 5 more days. And if you want to submit your photographs, please do. I need more photographs to talk about. And I'd be very happy to talk about your photographs, submitting them either underneath this video or in the Creative Smartphone Photography group. And I look forward to seeing you again very soon. That's it. Bye for now. Bye for now.